Hi, my name is Richa Bansal, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all to the digital workspaces of the future. Dell Technologies, in partnership with Strategic, is pleased to bring you this event, conceptualized keeping in mind the transformation that we are witnessing in the concepts of workspace. Transformation is today an imperative, especially given the business disruptions we are witnessing. In reimagined realities, employees find all the information and processes they need to deliver work successfully while being able to even execute, collaborate, and innovate with ease, agnostic of the constraints of time and space. In this context, crafting superior experiences for employees while managing business continuity assumes significant importance. Enter digital and unified workspaces that will transform the manner in which organizations and employees approach the very concept of work itself. So, without further ado, let me introduce our first keynote speaker, Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic. Over to you, Arjun.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan. I'm the Chief Research Officer at Strategic, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome each of you here today. As recent events have really shown us, business disruption pretty much comes unannounced and is, well, fairly unprecedented. In the times that we are in today, what we have seen over the last 28 days of the physical lockdown of sorts that corporate India and the rest of the country equally has gone through is that these are fairly traumatic and trying times, both personally, professionally, as well as for industry as a whole. But perhaps everything isn't as bleak and dreary as it looks currently. There is perhaps a silver lining that points to the ability that technology has brought us and the acknowledgement that technology by itself can help us reinvent and reimagine the very concepts of what we call the workspace, increasingly from a work from home concept, and perhaps over the course of time in the near future will help us reimagine the very concepts of work by itself. Now, I'm here to present to you the findings of a very detailed research that was conducted by Strategic and commissioned by Dell Technologies around how corporate India was perceiving the very concepts of workspaces and the concepts of the future of work. So, a long story short, we spent over 250 hours speaking with more than 335 individuals and business leaders across organizations in India and across very diverse sectors to understand and elicit their sentiments around what they perceive to be the future of the digital workspace and really how the modernization of endpoints could lead to disproportionate business results and metrics. And at the same time, how it could be really fiscally prudent to, in fact, evaluate digital workspaces as the go to model for the future of work. And without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a detailed deck that we have prepared in order to show you what individuals, business leaders across IT, finance, and human resources are feeling today. If I will just share my screen for your benefit, and here we go. And let me blow that up. The report was aptly titled The Digital Workspaces of the Future India Sentiment Study 2020, and as I've mentioned, was commissioned by Dell Technologies and executed by Strategic. Now, the very concept of, and many of you may be asking this question, why did we look at digital workspaces of the future, and why did we want to traverse into an area called the future of work? Well, the answer is pretty simple and it's out there. Now, these are data points that are fairly available publicly. And while I'm not going to walk you through each of the data points, I think it will be sufficiently enough, really, to mention that each of these data points that you see here are reflective of an unprecedented change in the mindsets of organizations as well as employees, contractors, and partners in how they approach the very concept of work. For example, if you look at what the World Economic Forum is saying, it really points to the fact that 65% of the children who are now entering primary school in about 20 years are going to hold jobs that currently don't exist, which really points to the fact that the whole concept of what job profiles, what talents, what digital skills perhaps are required to address the challenges and the metrics of the future have yet to be even imagined in their totality. Uh, I think all of us in India are also acutely aware of the fact that an increasing percentage of the workforce is choosing today to work remotely, to not just work remotely, but also work agnostic of time and space, which is essentially what the gig economy is. And therefore, to bottle this all down, it would perhaps only be logical to say that the very concepts of future of work and the future of the workspace as we knew it till yesterday have really changed. Moving forward, the research that we conducted was essentially a sentiment analysis. And as it says here, was to understand how IT, finance, and human resource leaders, critical people in an organization's transformation journey today, perceive the whole concept of workspaces and how digital workspaces could really be the catalysts for future transformation in the workforce. To take it forward, how did we do the research? We went to 335 unique organizations who had at least 500 and more endpoints in the form of workstations and laptops and tablets at a pan India level across 7 major cities in India, 13 diverse industry sectors, and 9 different diverse leader groups with one to one discussions that spanned after the 335 were completed almost about 250 hours of conversations to really figure out the relevance and context around how sentiments were evolving within organizations and business houses around the future of work, around endpoint modernization, around what the drivers for digital workspaces should be, and the transformation and the disruption positive that it would bring to organizations. So without further ado, I am officially now launching the report, which is aptly titled Digital Workspaces of the Future India Sentiment Study 2020, a sentiment analysis of Indian industry in the background and the backdrop of workforce transformation and embracing change in what we call reimagined realities. I'd like to thank my co-author, Shantanu Ganguly, Chief Customer Officer at Strategy, for having helped me articulate all the data points and the sentiments that came across. I would certainly equally like to thank each of the 335 respondents who very happily and enthusiastically participated in the survey. Uh, it wouldn't have been possible without your help. And last but not the least, I'd like to thank Dell Technologies for helping us really try to go out into the market and industry and analyze what promises to be a very critical imperative as we move on in our transformational journeys. What really did the report throw up? And it is very important to note that about 76% and upwards of 76% of the business leaders who were surveyed and assessed were strongly convinced that digital workspaces will not just enhance cost optimization, but will also help them develop competitive abilities in what really promises to be a hyper digital, hyper compete world. Equally, 53% of respondents felt that endpoint modernization by itself and the modernization of the endpoint infrastructure would significantly enhance the productivities that IT personnel are today being able to generate. And last but not the least, and these are of course just a few from the very many that you will see on the report, which is up for downloads on the platform, is that about 25% of business leaders are willing to commit within the next 6 months upwards of 10% of their budgets in order to create digital workspaces. Now, while all of this is interesting, I'd also like to jump in here into what organizations from various sectors in our industry are saying. Is what we did here really across these 6 key verticals out of the 13 diverse verticals that we looked at was what is the priority of KPIs that organizations would like to measure in terms of the priorities if digital workspaces were to be made a reality and deployed within their organizations. Now, as you see, there are 5 fundamental KPIs, which are productivity gains, an enhanced rate of innovation, very important in today's day and age. The satisfaction index of employees, again, another very critical highlight point that reflects on how enthused and how engaged employees are within organizations for them to be able to obviously deliver superior results in a consistent manner. Growth in revenues, which are key financial metrics, and last but not the least, an improved time to market, which is a reduction in the time to market and therefore be able to compete better. What we clearly saw was that organizations by and large seem to believe that the ability to enhance productivity is a key business metric, which is why you see it gain prominence across industries from banking and financial sector to manufacturing, healthcare, IT, ITES, retail, which is soon going to open up all over again, and utilities and energy. But further down, what you see in this ranking really is the levels of priority that each sector or vertical would give to the key business metrics or the KPIs if digital workspaces were really to be made live and deployed. So while this is there, it's also important to look at what the future of work sentiment by itself was. And this is very, very interesting, is that 34% of organizations believed that creating digital workspaces and modernizing endpoints and creating a future of work concept within their organization would help collaboration enhance to a degree where business gains would be much, much more effective and credible. Equally, 29% felt that creating digital workspaces, allowing employees to work agnostic of time and space and geographical borders, really, in what is really today a borderless world, would help them compete better in a hyper digital world. 23% equally felt that the concept of future of work or creating future of work concepts and models would really help become a very key pillar in the overall transformational journey that they had. And last but not the least, 14% of organizations had already embarked on a future of work journey or a digital workspaces journey and had already started reaping the business benefits from having created and deployed digital workspaces for their employees. Now, while this is very interesting, I will also take you to another data point really, which points to so while a lot of organizations want to create digital workspaces, unify workspaces, modernize endpoints, and so on and so forth, what is equally important is the necessity for a very clear-cut strategy and to be able to put down clearly on paper what the real drivers are. Otherwise, like a lot of other transformational initiatives using technologies that organizations tend to embark on, it tends to become a good to do and it tends to become something that's great but not really bolstered by key metrics and a vision towards creating something of value, which is why we ask business leaders to, amongst five key drivers, rate their drivers in the order of their priority for creating digital workspaces and looking at endpoint modernization. And not surprisingly, the first three top drivers that organizations felt, which is IT leaders, finance leaders, and human resource leaders, felt that endpoint security was the topmost priority, with 47% of the people putting up their hands saying this is going to be the most important one. Now, interesting question is why would finance and HR leaders look at endpoint security as a key function? For the simple reason that as organizations today tend to focus on data led capital and information infused products, services, and solutions, the security of the endpoint becomes that much more critical. Because if data losses were not to be prevented, you're looking at organizations losing tons of IP with, well, unprecedented revenue losses and margin losses too. The second priority really was IT personnel productivity, something that we saw very early on too. The third very important one that a lot of IT and finance leaders said was, look, we don't want to be looking at endpoint support from the perspective of something that we would like to do within the organization. If there are experts and if there are service providers available to create endpoint support, I think it would make sense for me to go the digital workspace route. Last but not the least, the last two priorities were driving more collaboration amongst the and within the organization and its employees customers and partners, and last but not the least, endpoint visibility. Something that I think all of us realize today is quite the challenge on a day-to-day basis. Now, while we were there, we also asked IT business and finance leaders where they would really see the business value emerging if workspaces were to be unified and digitized, and the concepts and the models of future of work were to be implemented within the organization. Here again, we asked them in the same manner of rating in an order of priority what their top business value inflection points would be. And I'm certainly not surprised to see that across the board, a unanimous 56% said that employee productivity and efficiency would be the biggest gain from creating and driving digital workspaces, followed very closely by a growth in revenue due to the very same collaborative and ability to innovate faster kind of a culture, reduce time to market, and last but not the least, increase in the rate of innovation. Innovation, I think all of us are very, very clear today, is one of those key areas that is helping organizations differentiate from their competitors and compete in a very, very differentiated and customized manner. Last but not the least, and reflective of how organizations are increasingly realizing that their employees are one of their very, very key pillars in their overall transformation and growth trajectories. That satisfaction of the employees, the experience that an organization is able to deliver to its employees is of very, very critical value. Having said as much, we then went across to CFOs, and from amongst very many questions that we kind of put to them, we asked them what percentage of their budgets they would be able to expend towards creating digital workspaces. Now, it's very important to note that CFOs as a whole would classically tend to make a readiness to invest only when they saw value. I'm very happy to mention that almost all the CFOs that we went to were convinced very, very strongly of the argument that digital workspaces was a model that not only was logical, given the current state and time that we are in, but also of immense business value, which is why we see that upwards of about 11% of the CFOs that we spoke to were very clear that they were willing to expend and invest upwards of 10% of their budgets towards creating digital workspaces. Now, while the rest of the data points are up there for you, I think what's also important is to understand the minds of the CFOs. The CFO was, or the group of CFOs that we went to really, were very, very clear about the fact that they saw a very clear linkage between creating digital workspaces and the direct impact it would have on the fiscal metrics of an organization. Now, while that is so, we also asked them to be whether they would be, well, really able to quantify the impact on the fiscal metrics. And because fiscal metrics really being positively impacted is a sign of the fiscal prudence that comes from a certain technology deployment, which is why upwards of 42% said that if digital workspaces were to be created and the models of future of work to be adopted within an organization, there is no surprise that it would increase revenue and profits by upwards of 5%. Now, this data point really only increases with almost about 20% of the organizations saying that it would increase from anywhere between 3% to 9%, which, well, if you look at revenue and profit margins as an, as an integer on the whole, you would see that this is very, very sizable in nature. Uh, I'm going to go on and move on to the human resource angle of this, where we are clearly seeing that organizations today and human resource leaders as a whole are clearly showing a sense of urgency uh, with their primary drivers and the impact that they perceive to be at an organizational level, starting off at the highest chunk by the levels of increase in productivity and revenue that organizations would see, closely followed by the enhancement of employee experience that organizations could see. And very importantly here, I come to a point here that human resource leaders that we spoke on. Uh, is that their ability, therefore, to attract digital talent would also go up by creating digital workspaces for the simple reason that their logic was that when we need great talent, it does not necessarily have to be domiciled in any one specific geographical area where the organization may or may not have its offices. Increasingly, HR leaders are today seeing digital workspaces and digital talent to be acquired from anywhere that it exists. Therefore, truly symbolizing the concept that organizations today are ready to move on to a work model or a model of the future of work, which is really agnostic of time and space. Last but not the least, we did a small comparison amongst how different leaders perceived the same way and the same questions, where we asked them, what is the most important business outcome from the operations department in the following fiscal year, which is 2020-2021? And I think there was a unanimous agreement that creating digital workspaces would lead to increased business and operational automation. And something that was very, very critical in today's day and age is the operational cost savings, which really point to the largest segments of collective requirements that organizations are looking for. And this really is a metric or a set of data points that point to how organizations should be looking at the overall concepts of the future of work. Without further ado, I'm going to thank you there because we have a very, very interesting set of keynote speaking sessions, panel discussions, business dialogues, and presentations coming across as the event progresses. A copy of this deck will be up for download in the download segment on the platform. We'd urge you to kindly go and please download this deck from there, as also download the Digital Workspaces of the Future report that we have created for you that is freely available for download and promises between Dell and Strategy to give readers a very, very comprehensive view of the overall sentiments of Indian industry today in a day and an age and a time really that has seen disruption that is not just unprecedented, but also with business value implications that are fairly unprecedented and disproportionate in nature. Uh, I will take your leave at this, and I will see you further on in this event, and I hope you enjoy it. All the best, and thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm the Chief Research Officer at Strategy. It gives me immense pleasure today to welcome each of you for the Digital Workspaces of the Future event that we're doing, which is sponsored by Dell and powered by Strategy. One of the key elements of what we are seeing in a global situation, struck down by a disruption that has fairly been well unprecedented, uh, we are at the cusp or a juncture really of technology inflection and business value that is going to determine over the course of the next few months how industry really transforms itself. And if I were to be allowed to say so, transforms the very concept of work itself. In order to discuss this and many, many more aspects related to how the future of work and how digital workspaces are playing such an imperative role in each of our business journeys today, I have a very, very eminent panel with me. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce each of them and in no specific order. Please allow me to welcome Sachin Gupta, President and Chief Information, Innovation and Digitization Officer at Usha International. Sachin sir, welcome. Absolute delight to have you with us.
Thank you, Arjun. Nice to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Amit Das, Director HR and CHRO, Bennett and Coleman Company Limited, which is the parent group for the Times of India Group. Amit, absolute delight to have you here too, sir.
Thank you, Arjun. Thanks for inviting me for panel discussion.
Thank you. Bob Batchelor, Sales Director, Asia Pacific at Dell EMC, who joins us all the way from Singapore. Bob, very, very grateful you could join us. We are immensely delighted to have you with us.
Thanks, Arjun. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And last but certainly not the least, Prajit Nair, Director Sales, End User Computing, VMware India, a man who's in the thick of things as we speak today. Prajit, welcome. Privileged to have you here with us.
Thank you, Arjun. And pleasure actually meeting all of us and getting an opportunity to talk virtually and while the message
Absolutely.
can go to a larger audience. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I'm going to kind of, gentlemen, jump straight into it. And if I may be allowed to kind of contextualize this, we just released about 25 minutes back a very detailed sentiment study that we'd undertaken of about 335 organizations in India, where we've spoken to very, very eminent leaders in the IT, the HR, and the finance functions about their sentiments related to how digital workspaces would really be the game changer in the years to come, especially where the whole concept of the remote workforce that we call it today, or the gig economy as we know it today, is essentially a workforce that is extremely talented, but also requires and expects to be working agnostic of time and space. The recent weeks, in the last 2 months, have also equally really shown us, and if I may be allowed to say this, how unprecedented a disruption we were so unprepared for in many, many aspects, thanks to a global pandemic that hit us about a couple of months back. And we today are in the midst of an extended lockdown of another 20 odd days now, as mandated by the union government, which really brings us all together to one point, which is that business continuity has really been impacted. And I'm talking about organizational business continuity, where some key features of how do you continue to have the workforce remain as productive, as engaged, and as enthusiastic as ever before is concerned. That's number one. And on the other side of the spectrum, really, the whole concept of business metrics, which is what really drives industry, to also continue to work. Now, when you kind of bring these two together, the very concept of how we work has changed and changed dramatically. So I'm going to, Sachin, with your permission, I'm going to kind of come to you to ask you, see, we are in the midst of a fair level of unpredictability. How at Usha International, perhaps, are you steering your organization's business continuity with your employees, contractors, your partners, pretty much the entire workforce working from home? How are you kind of orchestrating this entire thing?
Uh, Thanks, Arjun, for having me here, and good morning, everyone. Um, I think, Arjun, rather than just talking about Usha International, I think this is the phenomena that we've seen everywhere, and I think all technologists or all CIOs would agree. I'll give you an example. We, I have spent numerous hours in my 25 years of career in IT to get people trained in use of simple technologies such as video conferencing, right? The answer always used to be, we don't know how to do this, there's this problem, there's that problem. And I don't think I work from Fortune 10 to a small 50 people organization and nothing changes, right? This employees and users behavior stays the same regardless. So where what what this unprecedented situation does, and I have to say this, I have I've been able to plan, do BCPs and DRs for God knows how many organizations, and situations like this you don't think about, right? You can't. It is beyond imagination, beyond planning. And in situation like this, 2 weeks ago, before March 21st, or 3 weeks ago, we were talking about importance of getting into video conferencing, start using video conferencing, and there was maybe 1% uptake. Come Monday morning, March 21st, when the first day of lockout happened, voila, we were at what, 60%, 70%. Tuesday, we were literally at 100%. Everybody doing it, zero training, nothing ever needed, no classes done. We only did issue resolution, no training, absolutely. And I always say it is not about the technology. It's not about people. It is always about a need. Is there a need to use the technology? If there is, people will use it. I don't think anybody learned or Google taught anybody to use Google Maps. There was a need. We figured it out ourselves, and we use it on a daily basis. So that's what's the difference I'm talking about. So it's all about making sure a need is met, and as long as you can create that, it happens. Um, you talked about Arjun, remote workspace, blurring the or working from home, or uh, or doing personal work at work, right? I don't know where those boundaries are anymore. So,
So true.
uh, do you sit at work and do personal work, or do you sit at home and do work from home, right? Who knows? Well, what it is we as technologists, we need to make sure that everybody can do whatever they need to do from wherever they are at any given point of time. Too many words, but that is the reality, right? Uh, you should be able to do whatever you want to do from anywhere, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we're able to provide the tools, technology for them to be able to do that with security and data security and privacy in perspective, right? So I that's what the world we are living in and we're going to continue to live in. What this experience is going to do is push more and more organizations to continue to have social distancing, continue to have more and more virtual meetings, continue to work in this paradigm. It is going to truly act as a paradigm shift for the organizations
So true.
and will force them to do more and more virtual work. So we can see that telecoms be happy and our data usage going up on a daily basis.
Yeah, so true that. And I'm a very interesting point that you made there. Mr. Das, I'm going to come to you. Sachin made a very bright point about how increasingly in a disrupted industry or a disrupted world, we are now with this work from home concept and digital workspaces really blurring the lines between the physical and the digital. So these two worlds have collided to an extent where the new norm or the new reality is entirely different. Now, at the helm of one of India's largest, in fact, India's largest privately held media companies, uh, and the media being as important as it is in today's day and age, how have you planned, strategized, and pretty much architected this entire operating model, sir?
Sure, Arjun. So first of all, good morning, all of you. And at the outset, let me wish each one of you who's watching this panel discussion and each one of your family members the best of safety and health at these trying times. These are not very normal times for us. These are unprecedented times, and any such uncommon times require uncommon wisdom. So I think as business professionals, we have been talking about this VUCA business environment being the new normal for quite some time now. But what we are seeing today is not only unprecedented, I think it's none of us have ever wondered or even thought of that we'll be getting into a situation where a lot of things which we have invested in the organization in terms of building capabilities and preparing the organization for this kind of a disruption will go wrong. For example, an organization of our vintage, the Times Group, we are 185-year-old organization, and we take pride in talking about the fact that we are 185-year-old startup. And the fact that we take pride in saying that is because we not only have a rich legacy of processes, culture, wisdom, but also we have the very high level of innovativeness. At the same time, as an organization, we are extremely agile to make changes much before, much ahead of times, which has helped us not only to sustain the print industry in India beyond anybody could think of. Because if you look at the various researchers, they've took inputs from the what happened in the rest of the part of the globe of the print industry getting declining, and they thought that in India also we'll be following a similar curve. But thanks to our innovativeness and the way we have pulled the innovation levers much ahead of times, that helped us not only to sustain our organization, but to sustain the entire media sector as a whole. So what I'm trying to say is, even an organization which is such a high degree of innovativeness and on the kind of agility that we have demonstrated over a period of time, while we have actually pressed the business continuity process button, even before the first case of coronavirus or COVID-19 infection was reported in India, we started sending the advisories, we started ensuring the business contingency plans, we started taking various preventive measures. While we had ensured the operational continuity, and we ensured that immediately 50% of the employees start working away from office, either remotely or from their home. But what hit us badly, or what came as a jolt to us, is when we found that suddenly this social media started talking about this fake myth of newspapers being carrier of coronavirus.
Oh.
That came as a jolt to us. And you must have seen a lot of brand campaigns that we immediately pressed on, starting to actually drive away this psychological barrier in the mind of people saying that newspaper is safe. And that has been reinforced and endorsed by a lot of public figures, a lot of politicians, ministers, and the PM's office himself, okay? And the celebrities also talking about holding the newspaper and saying, I'm reading the newspaper, it is safe. But the other thing that we have to keep in mind in a sector like this is, and it has come directly from the Honorable Prime Minister, saying that newspaper is the most authentic source of information. Especially in trying times like this, you must not depend on this social media messaging and the various information that keeps floating around, because you don't know to the degree of authenticity of this news that you are consuming throughout the day.
So true.
So you have to actually depend on newspaper, and that gives us an onerous responsibility as an organization.
So indeed true.
That we reach our product to the doorstep of the reader every day in the morning at predefined time before 6:30 every day morning, day in, day out.
I'm just going to hold your thought there, sir. Bob, with your permission, if I were to be allowed to come to you, you heard two very eminent gentlemen speak and elucidate really very diverse points from the spectrum. The first is that there's no glossing over the fact that there has been disruption, that it is credible and it is present today. Secondly is the whole question of how citizens, people, workers, employees, contractors, partners tend to react when caught in a situation that they haven't been exposed to before. Now, my whole concept is, if you were to kind of bring these two together, how do you, in your space, in the kind of matters and the technology advancements that you helm, how do you see the whole concept of digital workspaces evolving? And where do you find technology meeting business value, relevance, authenticity?
Okay, so let me take that piece by piece, Arjun.
Sure.
First of all, it's quite interesting to hear the comments from Sachin and Amit. Let's just break it up individually. So when you speak about evolving workspace, so I've been a remote worker for some time. So from me, it's quite usual to work from home for any period of time. But one thing I have even myself have learned is this whole concept of video conferencing. Now, Sachin mentioned about how people were objecting to it. And I had the same thing from the initial start on no one to go on video to now everyone's choosing a different background and it's more of a social thing. So that's already evolved in just a matter of a few days. So I can see your point there, and what's happened is people have grasped the technology, and instead of being afraid of it, have started to embrace it. And Amit was saying about the deluge of information coming out there in social media. So before I talk about the technology, I just want to talk a little bit about, with my own staff, is making sure that we have the right focus when we're working from home. So it's a lot of contact, a lot of communication. We have IM, we can see presence, we can see who's there, who's available, know when you can contact them, when you can ping them. We use various other apps to keep in communication. And that way nobody feels alone. So that's the first thing I wanted to highlight, is that in this situation, unprecedented situation, contact with individuals is really important. Now, if we go back to the whole remote working side of things and this evolution of the workspace, one of the things we did at Dell Technologies is really try to give the digital workspace to particularly the millennial or the younger generation, because they wanted to be able to access their tools and applications from anywhere on any device at any time, and being able to do that actually increases the opportunity to attract talent. So I won't steal any thunder from Project. So he'll talk about how VMware have helped us do that. So we certainly look at the unified workspace to allow people to have that digital workspace. But more importantly, it doesn't mean the company has to sacrifice security, and the IT administrators do not have to relinquish management or control of those devices. So that's the first most important thing. I won't go into detail how that's done because I'm sure Project will talk about that. What I will say,
yeah, so.
Yeah, what I will say is that what it does, it allows us to do is have the ability for workers to be at home. And one of the things we're really very conscious of is making sure they've got the right working environment, something that's conducive to them to be able to be productive. And that's what this is really about, making sure that our staff remain productive for the benefit of the organization. So making sure they have the right environment, making sure they have the right tools, the right equipment, also making sure they look after themselves as well. And be very disciplined. You've got to be very disciplined. You start and stop. And when I first started working from home, I would start early in the morning and finish late at night. And you can end up having some burnout. So again, at this time, it's very important for your staff who have not been used to working from home to be disciplined. You know, have breaks. Even if you're going to have a conference call, instead of making a business one, think about when you're in the coffee room. You know, invite a few friends, get on a call, talk about work, talk about various things, what you did the weekend, what are you doing to stay busy when you're not working, you know, those sort of things. So that's just a sanity check. But the real value of what we can do is we can deliver that on any device consistently. Providing the network is good, and that's again one other challenge. I'm based here in Singapore, and the amount of people on the network, I'm glad this is a little later in the day, because ordinarily first thing in the morning is very, very busy and the network can become congested. So we're going to see, and I think Sachin mentioned this, the communication companies are going to have to ramp up the 5G network probably quicker than
true.
Yeah, so in terms of how it's evolving, I touch more on the soft aspects of how it's evolving, how people are getting used to working remotely. But in terms of the technology, Dell Technologies has a plethora of solutions that allow any type of worker, and about 50% of workforce can work from home, any type of that, whether it be an engineer, a developer, management, database analysts, you know, all these sort of things, they can work from home as productively as they could from the office.
Brilliant. Project, I'm going to come to you. Bob made a very beautiful point there. He said it's as much about the technology as it is about making sure that people, wherever they are, employees, wherever they are, continue to feel useful, productive, and enthusiastic about it. Now, the man at the center of architecting and orchestrating this, how have you and if I were to break an era, a very short era into two spaces, which is pre-disruption and now in disruption, and we'll obviously come to a post-disruption space, how have you seen that evolving?
Okay, thanks, Arjun. And it was great to see the insight from all diverse dignitaries here. Sachin giving an example from this organization and his experience, and how Hamid gave an example from a people perspective and how they had to face the challenges and how they were trying to grapple with it, and how Bob set the context basically about delivering, literally anything on any device at any point of time with a consistent experience. So when we look into it and we see all of this coming, we are getting customers across the domain. be it the banking sector, be it the technology sector, be it the manufacturing sector. All these sectors probably have some of the other reasons, and everybody is grappling with it. Now, fundamentally, I do agree with Sachin when he said that the technologies and these options were there before as well. But there were always resistances when this was being given to people to do it. And most of the time, it remained more an IT initiative. The IT is trying to do a lot of these things. We will see when things come back. We will think about it. We will.
To me,
we will
I'm
take a
responsible
conscious decision.
for that kinds too.
Okay. So it was all about, the solutions always existed. But with this kind of an unprecedented situation that we all are in, literally this has become a norm. And what people thought was never possible is today absolutely being possible, and people are going with it. Absolutely. And within a matter of days, I mean, we are not even talking months that I will take time to scale up to a month or 2 months and then try to do it. Literally by the second or third day, we are working within the constraints that we are forced to work, and it's working fine. Now, it may not be the optimal use case, and organizations are now trying to see what can be optimized and what can be provisioned and what can be given to the organization, so that on one side, they are getting the access they need to the corporate data and applications on any device. And at the second time, they also want to ensure that the security is also in place, because you mentioned earlier that it's now become a borderless corporate environment, because the borders are no longer assigned along just with the entity. It's spread to homes, everybody, and everybody is working in a borderless structure. How do you really build a structure within a borderless structure is also the game that the IT needs to plan and deliver this as a solution. So when we look at these kind of incidences, we are flooded with multiple options. On one side, we have customers coming to us that please enable us at least a compute facility, which means give me an option to work on a virtual desktop, which can be provisioned over a cloud, and I could immediately start using with it. There are few set of customers who are already using virtual desktops, and they come to us if they have excess capacity with them that I had provisioned only for, let's say, X amount of users, but now situation demands that I expand it to X plus 50% or X plus 30%. Can you help us really provision that? Now we have customers, some of the customers who are already users of this one, who say that, you know what, I have already made this possible, but this was working only in the corporate zone. Now I want to open it up and make this facility used from home. So can you literally work with us to make it happen? And the time given to us was just a weekend. I mean, that was the pressure on us, and people were not even willing to wait for the next Monday to come, because that was the kind of pressure. We have known the last 2 or 3 weekends that the team has been on the ground really going hard, trying to provision this and make it happen over a weekend, so that on Monday, when employees start accessing it, they are able to work on it. So this is one set of users that we see. On the second side, we have also seen very rudimentary Indian type of jugaad coming into the space, where organizations have actually shipped physical PCs to employees' home. You will find a lot of organizations who actually shipped their corporate PCs, unplugged it from the offices, and have sent it to employees' home, so that they get to work on the structured or a controlled environment of endpoint that's available. And we have also seen some sort of an adoption where people say, okay, I can't really ship the hardware, we are kind of stuck. I want to make it possible from the employees' devices or the employees' endpoint, whatever devices they have in home. Can you enable access for those devices from the ones that they're available at home? Can you make them possible that they should be able to access all my corporate applications seamlessly? And what could be the security measures around? So we saw all of these kind of different responses, different organizations came to us. There are organizations who actually went ahead and bought rental devices. They said that, okay, I don't know how long this will last, but I think this is a short-term one. Now, we don't know how short-term is short-term. Now, whether this will be a 2-month thing, 3-month thing, I mean, it's a guesswork that everybody is doing. But people who wanted to get things right, all these sort of options available. And what VMware could do was, because we had the technology which used to enable this to happen, we were working on a war footing in all these areas, whether it involved creation of desktop for them to be operating through on-prem, or whether it involved creating through the cloud and offering it, or whether it involved enabling their Windows 10 laptops that they were having at home and how we could enable them to do it, or even enabling simple things like accessing the corporate PCs from their home PCs. So there are a lot of situations in organizations where there are some set of users who only are the PC users. They don't carry the PC home. They don't need to work around the clock. They are expected to work only for the certain time. Now, for those set of users, all they want to access is that please give me a solution whereby I can connect from my home PC to my corporate PC and my job will be done. So the VPN kind of solution doesn't scale up so fast. The bandwidth has not been curtailed well, and the home PCs are not configured well. So even if you put a VPN on a home PC, literally you're expanding your corporate environment to a home PC which is unconfigured properly, and you can run to situations there. And so people are saying that in a secure way to the home PC to the corporate PC, and we have solutions which could do that. So we literally address all these kind of gaps, and we're still doing so as we speak. Various organizations are trying a lot of these solutions and trying to see what best can be done as a more consistent solution moving forward.
Thanks, Prajit. Very, very relevant points there. Mr. Das, if I may be allowed to come to you really. The whole concept of what we're hearing is the blurring of the lines between the physical and the digital, which is what Prajit was also speaking about. Now, these are sure to bring out very significant cultural changes in the way that employees approach work in a post disruption space, as well as how organizations will approach the whole concept of work productivity and business metrics with their employees. Now, as a chief people officer at BCCL, what are your views? How do you see that happening, and what's your strategy on that?
Sure. So if you think about it, the digitization of workplace is nothing new. It's been happening for many years now. If you see most of the global organizations, they have their global diverse workforce virtually connected from any parts of the geographies, and they are managing the world organization for a long time. But what this kind of event that we are going through will help us do is to accelerate the change in the mindset. And that's the biggest barrier. All of us know that any change management is a humongous task for any of the organizational leadership to manage, while we have the right tool set as well as the right skill set. But the mindset is something which needs humongous amount of planning, humongous amount of collaborativeness, and humongous amount of leadership, I would say, bandwidth to make that change happen. So I think it's more about changing the digital mindset, creating more of digital dexterity and digital savviness in the organization, which is important, than digital workplace. I think that's the shift that we'll be going through. Now, having said that, it was very interesting for me to see certain research reports which are saying that the virtual teams are 25% less productive than the teams which are physically connected in a brick and mortar environment. Number one.
Very interesting.
Number two, we're talking about employees willing to take 8 to 10% of a cut in their earnings, provided they are given an opportunity to work from anywhere. It's not work from home, but work from anywhere. But what people thought was as a welcome change for them to get this opportunity to work from home actually has worked out differently. The feedbacks that we are getting from our employees, and I'm talking to other CHROs as well, is that employees are started seeing signs of fatigue due to long hour calls, where they are getting into these unstructured meetings, which is going on, which is starting quite early, going on till late evenings, and especially at a time when they are also supposed to take part and contribute a lot in their household chores. So I think this is a big change that's happening in the workplace and the way people are connected through a virtual medium. So what we need to do is to invest in building capability to manage virtual meetings. What Bob was trying to say is how we can make employees more disciplined and put a guideline in the way we manage this kind of virtual meetings and interactions. That's number one. Number two is that any kind of virtual interaction has certain downsides as well. When I wear the hat of a HR leader, I cannot, just move away from the fact that our human brain secretes certain hormone called oxytocin, which is primarily a social hormone. And that happens when we are in a social gathering. where we are in an office, physical office space, and to the various interactions that we have with our fellow colleagues. Now, our human brain, the way it has evolved over a period of time, it is yet to function in a manner where it can start secreting that oxytocin in a virtual environment. And when the social interactions are happening over a virtual screen. I think that is something what we need to look at, and how quickly we can make that changes and help employees and our colleagues to make that change in their own mind is more important than digitizing the workplace. The technology is either automating the work that you are doing, or it transforms the way you work. In most of the cases, what we are trying to do is automating the workplace. But the transformation will lie in the last mile barrier of transformation of the mindset. I think that is where is the biggest.
Can I chip in there, Mr. Das? Just coming to you. See, at the beginning of this conversation, and it's very, very interesting that you mentioned this. At the beginning of this conversation, you said yours is a 185-year-old organization and extremely well respected, and therefore, do you find it easy to address the barriers and the challenges of cultural shifts that will indeed come up, and therefore, are you prepared with a clear strategy on how you will address it?
Yes. So if you have to look back, there are three things primarily which has helped us, which we have demonstrated and we are consciously demonstrating as leadership in the organization when it comes to the larger organization. Number one is safety. The safety is of paramount importance. And that's the biggest leveler at this time of crisis. We have made safety as a prime important factor for us in the organization when it comes to safety of our employees and safety of all our stakeholders, be it our consumers, be it our customers, be it our distribution boys who are going and delivering your newspaper product to the last mile doorstep for the readers. Okay, so first is the safety. Second is the trust. If we have a trust deficit in the system, no matter whatever technology that you deploy, that will fail you again and again. So I think that that's a second element which has helped us if you have to reflect back. The third element is the transparency. The transparency at which we have co-created and recreated our process while running on the treadmill is something which has helped us in this time of crisis, which is quite unprecedented, despite the fact, as I said, that as an organization, we are extremely agile and innovative.
Wow, that was, I think, extremely well put. And I'm just going to pick up on threads of that. And really, Sachin, if I may come to you, is what Mr. Das is saying is that there are a new set of realities that have been established, the new norm in the cliched manner of speaking, and please forgive me for that. But how, in your opinion, are you going to now, going forward, over the weeks, months, and perhaps the years, leverage the power of technology to augment the workforce and the workspace so that you're able to create orders of magnitude improvements in productivity and innovation, really?
Fair point, Arjun. I think, before I answer the question, I think we need to, I think we're mixing two things here. We're mixing working from home or working in a digital space and lockdown and putting it together in one sentence, right? And you really have to break it apart. Right?
Sure.
Amit mentioned a point on social behavior of human beings, right? And Bob mentioned one thing. He said that we have to be very regimented about when you work from home in terms of you're having social calls versus you're having certain work schedule. You have to be very regimented about that. And I used to, so work from home used to be a privilege, right? If you go back 10 years, it used to be, look,
True.
I want to catch up on a few things. I want to be away from work. Let me
It
work
is
from
quite
home.
looked down upon, if that may be.
Absolutely, right? Work from home used to be thought about something that you would do, not really working, but you want to run errands and you want some time off. So you'd say, I want to work from home and maybe spend a couple of hours. It changed over a period of years, right? And it changed for good, where the lines got blurred. Working from home really was working, right?
Yeah.
We're working from anywhere, and I alluded to that fact, and I don't want to dwell into too much. But we truly need to segregate right now lockdown versus work from home. I think lockdown will go away eventually. Uh,
True.
and we need to then focus on our working from home capability, being able to, or working away from physical workspace reality. And the comment that Amit made was very interesting, and I'm going to have an offline conversation with him on how people, when they work out of office, are 25% less productive. Because I've been working harder than that, and we have this conversation about leadership in the leadership team that we're burning out because we're on the calls from morning to evening and then going and washing dishes after the fact, right? So, but
So,
as,
Sachin,
go ahead. Yeah, yeah, Amit, go ahead.
one small clarification in that while the productivity is getting dropped, but people are finding themselves more fatigued.
Oh,
Very,
absolutely.
very counterintuitive.
Yeah. And I can give you my example that I'm feeling tired, and a lot of days I feel worn out because we're on the calls, and you're not being able to step out. And that's why I said you need to segregate work from home and lockdown. But right now we're in that space
Yeah,
confined
yeah,
together
yeah.
because of that, right? I can't even step out of my building, forget about society or anything. So it's a different world right now, and we need to segregate that. So if we talk about work from anywhere, and I'm not going to say work from home, right? Ability to provide resources to people so that they can work from anywhere, anytime, right? And if I was in Microsoft, I'd say anywhere, anytime on any device, but those days are long gone. So let's just stick with anytime, anywhere. In 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 that space, in that paradigm, I don't think an responsibility of an IT head or a CIO is really changed, right? I still need to look at new technologies. I still need to look at business opportunities. I still need to look at digitization, new ways of doing business. I still need to be able to look at opportunities and see and only focus on opportunities that will help me increase revenue, decrease cost. I still need to look at providing dashboard, meaningful information to the leaders so that they are able to make point in time decisions. So you that really doesn't change, Arjun. What changes is the paradigm of the space, right? Is an employee sitting here or is an employee sitting somewhere else? It should not matter. Uh, if you go back 3, 4 years ago, we used to spend a lot of money in doing telepresence, right? Because
Yeah, true that.
we were doing it because we wanted that experience that the person sitting now with the technologies today, you really don't need that. So not much is changing, right? What I'm trying to say is not much has changed over years. One thing that has changed is the video conferencing, because of the situation we are in, has become a need rather than a want or a desire, right? And now this incident is going to only help people realize that they can be as productive as they want to be when they're not physically in the office. So we should see travel bills come down and so on and so forth, right? Uh, as far as my responsibility as a CIO, it's not changing. Hasn't changed, and I don't see it changing. I still would have to provide the tools so people are productive at any given time, can work from anywhere, and have up-to-date information to be able to make the right and meaningful decisions at any given time from anywhere, right? Which is
Interesting.
all about digitization, thinking about new business models. So that's my perspective.
Lovely. Bob, I'm going to come to you on that one. Uh, very, very clear views. So there's clear business metrics. There's the clear concept that we need to delineate the whole concept of what we are going through today, or the lockdown as it is called, from the digital workspace of the future, really. Now, in a digital workspace of the future, Bob, uh, at Dell, what are the kind of emerging technologies such as automation or perhaps AI or robotics, really, security or next gen security, are you really integrating into your solutions to be able to not just ensure that this work that continues as usual or BAU, really, but also the experience, notwithstanding the fact that employees continue to feel enthusiastic, energetic, and wanting to? How do you bring that about? What's the
Oh,
magic
look,
there?
It's a good point, Arjan. And one of the things that was already mentioned, I think, by Sachin and Amit, was the ability for employees to work on any device from anywhere or anytime, anywhere. Now, the reality is you can't do that without some mechanism to be able to deliver an application. So kind of an application delivery tool, which is 100% secure and also accessible on any type of device. So that's one of the things that we're doing with VMware in their Workspace ONE solution. So that takes care of the security aspect and also the connectivity. As soon as they click on the application, then all of the SSL and authentication will all be taken care of. It'll also make sure that if someone's using a jailbroken device or has a blacklisted application, that it'll also be locked out. So all of that's taken care of. So once we make sure that the environment is safe and the employee can access all the applications and tools they need to do their job and ensure their productivity, we need to think about how we make sure that they enjoy what they're doing, they remain relevant. And one of the things we've been doing quite a lot here at Dell is investing in AI or augmenting reality, particularly around training. So it doesn't actually matter where you are, whether you're in an office environment or a classroom environment or at home. You can actually immerse yourself into a training environment. And this has been taken to some extremes. South African Army, in fact, they're using the augmented reality for their new recruits. And what they found is a 20% increase in their first live firing exercise because they've had the experience of going out and firing a weapon at targets, understanding what they're going to be exposed to, and that's given that increase. Another extreme to that is children going in for an MRI. It's quite daunting. If anyone's ever had an MRI, it's quite a overwhelming experience. You're in a small confined space with very loud noises. It's quite warm and stuffy. We can actually have the children go through that environment, go through that process in a safe environment. They know what to expect, which means they're less likely to move during the MRI. It's less wasted time and also less inconvenience for them. So there's some benefits that we're finding with augmented reality. Internally, we're finding it for training, even to the point of new products. So I don't have to get a physical product anymore. I can send my colleagues a file, and all they need to do is look through their smart device, and they can actually see the whole product, turn it around, take it apart. So that's how we're using AI to improve what we do here at Dell. And of course, once we've made that and perfected that, that's when we start offering it to our customers and partners.
Outstanding. Project, I'm going to come to you, and I do have a view on the clock, but I am going to come to you on two aspects, really. One is I'd like you to bring out an extension to what Bob just mentioned in terms of the embedding and the integration of a lot of automation and AI in developing solutions that are going to meet fairly customized and personalized needs of organizations such as USHA, BCCL, and so on. But I will first pick you on that one. Why don't you? And then I'll, of course, come to the second part of it.
So if you look at it, I think Bob made a very relevant point here of enabling, literally at the end of the day, there needs to be a mechanism which delivers consistent experience to users irrespective where they are working. Now, if you look at it, prima facie, it's going to be an experience-led economy. We all agree that anything that we are buying today or the way that we touch or feel or decide or choose a particular thing is based on the experience. And that's why we call it an experience-led economy. The same thing comes even for the device through which you connect your corporate. Now, it can be a smart device, it can be a laptop, it can be PC, or it can be any sort of devices. So it is in situations like this that you find VMware and Dell, working together to deliver consistent experience to the users across wherever they work, whether they're working at home, whether they're working on PCs, whether they're working on their smartphones. We could deliver the same experience, the consistent experience on any device. So in that sense, what we are delivering is changing the gamut from the IT and the other organizations who used to typically work in silos in the organizations. where IT used to be working only on desktops as one setup. Another set of IT used to work on mobile. The other set used to work on security. So over the years, we have built up silos in organizations which was focused on certain set of activities that they used to do in the organizations. Now with this kind of an economy and where people are talking about an experience-led economy and we're talking about digital workspaces and should be relevant to work from anywhere on any device, literally you can't work with this siloed approach. You typically need a platform-based approach which actually removes or make this layer very transparent, which takes care of the needs for the desktop team, the security team, the HR team, the application onboarding team, all together to deliver consistent experience on to all the users, irrespective where they are in the office or whether they are at home. And that's some of the initiatives that we work with Dell and Workspace One together. In fact, just to give you a simple thing that let us look at a scenario of how a basic laptop used to be provisioned in an environment. Typically, the IT team used to have an imaging team, which was a corporate image they usually to put. And by the time an employee joins an organization, at least a week is gone just before he gets the access to his new device. He goes to various departments trying to get access to the different applications because he needs approval from those specific departments to get into it. And it takes easily between 3-4 days, maybe a week time before the employee actually becomes productive in doing this work. Now, what we have co-engineered and delivered the solution is we have spoken to customers and got the image that he wants and given it to Dell so that they can literally factory provision this entire setup through Workspace One and ship this device to the new joiners who is going to join the organization. And even before he joining the organization on the first day, depending on the department that he's joined in, depending on the applications that is relevant to him, when he clicks open, the same way how we are treated to an experience on our mobile phone, that if you buy a new mobile phone, all you do is just put your email ID and you do next, right? And it literally is, and you can pick and choose the application that you want, download it on your own. There is no IT help desk. Everything gets done to you and you're on your own. That's the kind of experience we are delivering it to all the users when they're getting this factory provision laptop shipped from Dell directly to them, so that on day one, when they're joining the organization, depending on the department and how it is, all they need to do is key in their email ID and the applications literally flows them. He doesn't really need to chase different departments, but literally the applications chase him and gives him a choice that, okay, this is the organization. Okay, this is the application catalog. Relevant to me, what are the applications? I just click on it and I get it on my desktop. As simple as that. So literally we are streamlining the IT help desk process, the experience consistency across different, and we're giving choice that you can really pick on any device of your choice and we will deliver the same level of consistent experience to you. And these are the different perspectives that we are trying to help customers meet the challenges that we see currently.
Quite brilliant, really. Thank you. But I do have a view on the clock. So, gentlemen, I'm just going to make this slightly interesting as we kind of bring this very, very exciting set of discussions to a close. Prajit, I'm going to come to you. 30 seconds. Your top prediction, or maybe top 2 predictions for what the future of the workspace is going to look like in between 5 and 10 years.
So fundamentally, what we believe is that this event will change workspace forever. I don't think this will now be a situation whereby people will think that this is a 3-month thing and let me get back to my old ways. People will definitely now have BCP plans. They will definitely think about work from home or work from anywhere. And most importantly, we are seeing a rapid change in the way organizations will look at the offices itself. Do they really need offices for all the employees, or can they really categorize what are the set of employees who needs to be in office, what are the set of people who can work from anywhere, and possibly look at increased revenue at a decreased cost in this kind of landscape. That's what we.
Lovely. Bob, what's the future of the workspace or the digital workspace of 2030 going to look like, or 2028, if that brings it closer to you?
Okay, well, just to follow on from what Rajit was saying there, one of the benefits I think is going to happen from moving on from here is the ability for them to utilize that commuting time. So that's going to give them extra productivity. Also, speaking to some of my staff in the fact that they are less stressed about having to worry about who's picking up the kids or where they are. So that's another absolute benefit that I think people are going to find. But we are social creatures and we must have contact. I work from home, but I have to go to the office just to see people. And you get roped into conversations, you have coffees, you go for lunches. But what I believe, and I've already started seeing this happening, is that we'll start seeing collaboration spaces. I've even been working with some education facilities where the schools no longer have a classroom. They have an environment with round desks. People will sit in any available chair. The lecturer or the teacher will speak to them and flick up onto a screen somewhere in the room from their device what it is that the content they're going to speak to them about today. And I believe that's what we'll see in the next 5-10 years. We'll all work from home or from anywhere, but we will have collaboration spaces where we can still go and congregate and be social creatures. And I'm a very tactile person, as I know you are in India. You know, you want to have that physical contact with people. So I don't think that will completely change.
Thank you. Sachin, if I may come to you, and I'm just going to add one layer to it. And what do you think the reimagined workspace of or the digital workspace of the future is going to do for innovation?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that question. That was a curveball. Thanks, Arjun. I think to put a focus on innovation, I think new technologies such as AR that Prajeet talked about. How can you aid learning and developing using AR or virtual reality for that matter? And there's a lot of work a lot of organizations are doing uh, with that. Not only it decreases cost, but also gives you a lot of look and feel. Think about a product company that would have to take hundreds of products and give it to people to be able
Yeah.
to get trained on that. You don't need to do that anymore, right?
Anymore.
So you see a lot of that to come into play. You will see a lot of security come into play because as you get connected and you start working from outside, we were only worried about how do we. So the difference was we used to only look at securing the corporate network, and you've secured the corporate network, nothing else outside matters, right? Now it's not only internal, it's external matters too, and now you're extending your network to people's homes and Starbucks of the world, and being able to do that. And on top of that, now you put privacy, right, where you have your consumers' information,
Yeah.
not all that information. So security, all of that's going to play a vital role. I think it's going to be all about providing information that people need in a secured manner so they're confident that they can work and the information that they're passing back and forth or collaborating on is secured, right? So that's would be my take.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Das, last but not the least, for sure, 30 seconds. What do you predict for the future of work and the future of the workforce?
I have a slightly different take on this. I don't look at workplace in an isolated manner. What I look at is WWW.
Oh, yes.
Workplace and workforce. All three have to evolve and transform together simultaneously and work in tandem to make this transformation happen. And that's how I foresee the future to get unfolded. Having said that, specifically on the workplace, I would say that it will become my space where I can have connectivity, access 24/7, and I can just plug and play from anywhere. So in a way, what I'm sensing is that we are gradually moving into a situation where it will be complete Uberization of the workplace, where we'll have an app, and through the app, we know exactly the nearest point from my home where I can just walk in, plug in, and start playing.
Lovely.
That's how I imagine the future going.
I couldn't have said it better myself. But I think that pretty much is what we have time for, gentlemen. Do let me, on behalf of the audience also, thank you. It has been an absolute privilege to have been in the midst of such an august audience. We stand the better for having heard your experiences, views, and opinions on really the way to the future. And I think if I were to summarize it, I would say that the technology is here. The situation has been more or less mandated one way or the other, naturally or unnaturally. And that we have, whether we like it or not, entered tomorrow. But at that, I am going to take a stop there. Thank you very, very much, Prajit, Bob, for joining us from Singapore, Sachin, Ms. Das. Absolute delight to have you here with us, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Pleasure catching you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. An absolute delight to have you with us. I am now going to be over the next 25 minutes in conversation with Sheena Mori, Vice President Dell Digital, in a business dialogue of sorts that's aptly titled At the Brink, a dialogue on business continuity amidst the chaos. To set the context, really, Sheenam, as corporate India buckles up to weather the storm unleashed by, well, a global pandemic, organizations are realizing increasingly the traditional business recovery mechanisms and models are not equipped to deal with the levels of disruptions that are being imagined and experienced. It is, however, equally true that globalization, technological progress, and demographic changes are trends that are shaping the future of work. In that sense, really, the current disruption, and I'd like your views on this, the current disruption really does it not serve as a natural impetus or a catalyst for adopting newer practices and mindsets? We started off the year with passion, hope in our hearts, and so on and so forth. But it's barely been about a quarter, and we are already find ourselves working from home. And large swaths of the working population across the globe are today working from home. So by that measure, really, it's been well quite the unusual year. Now, at the helm of all that is technology at Dell across the world, we've heard, Shinam, that once the lockdown was announced globally, you had your employees across the world, 150,000 odd employees, up and running within 48 hours. Is that true?
That's actually not very true, Arjun. Um, we actually took about a week end to end to get to, ensuring our a lakh and 50,000 people across the globe are enabled to work from home.
Okay.
What's also not very true is the fact that we didn't wait for the lockdown to start working from home. But Dell Technologies across the globe announced that the entire workforce will work from home um, about a week or 10 days before the India lockdown. So there was a communication pan Dell Technologies that everybody who can should work from home and should not find a reason to come to office.
Mm.
It's also important at this juncture for me to talk about, our employee resource group with the ERG that we call Connexus, um, which also enables employees who are remote to be connected to our workplace. So from our organization perspective, we were really already enabled with, the guidelines, the policies, the infrastructure needs of employees that needed to be connected globally remotely, right? About 45% of our workforce, even prior to this pandemic and the lockdown and working from home, is remote, right? And that's something that Michael enables
Okay.
and wants to do as a policy that there should people should be allowed to work from wherever they are. So we already had those processes in place. What we did in those 48 hours was really people who needed to be in office, right? Like all the people who are call center people, the people who are really enabling implementations globally sitting in India, all our service organization people, how can they have the necessary infrastructure to work from home? Most of these people used desktops and Avaya phones on their desks, right? So if you have to transfer that person to working from home, you have to enable her with a laptop. You have to enable her with a soft Avaya phone connection on the laptop and ensure that there is no connectivity issue. So we immediately took a decision as to how we can, financially help our people to connect from home. So, if they wanted to have buy more data cards, if they wanted to, increase their bandwidth at home, because suddenly you have the entire family at home and you are sharing bandwidth.
Yes.
How does that help in connectivity and stuff like that? So very quickly we turned around the infrastructure. We provided the laptops for the people with all the right security accesses. We ensured, we had the software via phones on them, and all of that actually was done in 48 hours. So you were
Wow.
not very far from truth, but that was really done in 48 hours. The what we took a week to do was really ensure we had a global rollout of Global Protect, right? We were
Mhm.
on VPN, but really upgrading everybody to Global Protect, upgrading our VPN bandwidth, really, so that suddenly when you have a VPN usage that needs to triple, right?
Mhm.
You had
Mhm.
45%, 45% of the people already working remote. Now, if 95% have to be working remote, our usage of VPN was going to go up. So how do you increase your bandwidth? And that getting that done was very, very critical for us. So that is what took us about a week. Then there were laws that came in, right? And in India,
Mhm.
you're aware of the fact that you needed to be on a constant IP when
Mhm.
you're connecting from
Yeah,
home, so
yeah.
that the government can track who's working, what they're doing, and
Yeah, you
stuff like
can't
that.
bounce it across the globe. Yeah.
Yes. So ensuring that that happens, ensuring that you're compliant with local laws, that also took, so that's where we took that period of the 1 week to kind of stabilize everybody. Now, I want to take a step back to say, how were we prepared for this and
Exactly. That
why
was going to
just,
be my next
yeah.
question.
Yeah. So how did we get to this stage? So we had already started the process of, unifying our technology and enabling people to work from home. One of the things that we started about 2 years back was defining personas. So
Mm.
different kind of users have different personas. And what we have done is that a persona of this nature needs this kind of a machine with these kind of apps. So that kind of setup is already ready. So when we had delivered laptops to 5,000 people in 48 hours, literally over a weekend, we knew who was coming in, what persona that person was, and therefore what kind of laptop. Should it be an engineering laptop? Can it be a plain simple Inspiron? What is it that you're talking about for this persona? What apps should be loaded? Everything is
But the entire
pre-decided.
preparation stage, really, how many
Yeah.
months or weeks was that in the making? Well, the
So
reason I'm
this
asking
was,
you this is
yeah,
also because the kind of audience that we have with us today is a very, very interesting and diverse mix of people from the IT profession, people from finance, very senior leaders, and people from HR. Now, clearly, three people who represent, or three personas really, who represent technology, the money, and the people. Pretty much the
yes,
entire triad
yeah,
of what an
yeah.
organization is. So, how long, what went into the making of the preparation, really?
So Arjun, it has been a cycle and a journey, right? And it started off in 2018, right? So it's not something that we did just prior to the lockdown, or we realized that this was something that we needed to do immediately. The fact that we build the personas, this persona journey has been since 2018. And why did we do that? We wanted to simplify onboarding. On day one, as you walk in, you have, we hand over your laptop to you as you get into the organization. So that's something that we did. Uh, we had moved from WebEx to Skype. We had already added Zoom into our conferencing tool kit. After all that has happened right now, in the last 1 month, we've added Teams. We
Okay.
have again got back WebEx, okay, as conferencing tools. So we've got Skype, we've got Teams, we've got Zoom for internal meetings. We've got WebEx when we want to do customer meetings. So we've got now a whole plethora of conferencing tools available. We have been modernizing our infrastructure, and one of the things that we have been doing there is really moving into a workspace one kind of an environment, where you can have the same environment if you're on your mobile or if you're on a desktop. Okay, and that also then allows you to do Outlook anywhere. It allows you to access intranet without really getting into VPN, right? So uh, that journey was already there. It was already being enabled. So a lot of it was really things that we could pick up and quickly push out as guidelines to everybody. one of the things that we did from a communication perspective was that when you log in every day, even today, I get a I get a cheat sheet. Okay, if
Okay.
you have a problem with IT, what happens? What are the conferencing tools available with links to them? Cheat sheets to which are the best tools for what? How do you use Teams? Because Teams is a relatively new tool for us. It's the last 1 month that we've rolled it out. So everybody gets that kind of a pop-up telling them, these are the new things that are happening. So really from a technology journey perspective, we were much in the curve already, right? So that really enabled us quite a bit. That allowed us that turnaround of enabling 75, 80,000 people quickly in 48 hours into, their work not stopping.
Very, very interesting. I must ask you this. So the technology bit is something you held forth on in a very, very experienced manner. But there's folks in the audience also, Shinam, and I'm presuming you must have done that too, which is really try to identify. So the one way of looking at it is right now we are mandated to work from home because there's no other way
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
But if this were to become perhaps the norm over a period of time, how did you at Dell Digital evaluate, identify, and quantify the real productivity gains, perhaps, in this whole mechanism and this strategy? I mean, are there productivity gains at all?
Actually, there are.
Oh, wow.
It's actually very surprising because we actually thought that when people would get into connectivity issues, working from home, the entire rigmarole of having the entire family together, um, there would be productivity losses. But what has been very surprising the last 2 weeks when we've started measuring velocity, especially from an engineering perspective, we've actually seen, velocity has gone up. People have been able to give out far more outputs and outcomes than we possibly got from an office environment. Now, I think there are two aspects to this, right? One is a cultural aspect, and the other is the technology aspect.
Hmm.
Maybe a third aspect, which is the process aspect. Now, when you talk about culture, I think the culture starts from top. So one of the things that has been happening is that we are over communicating, right? um, we do we have all hands at all levels, starting from Michael and the ELT. We have manager check-ins, we have team check-ins, we have ask me anythings. So we are ensuring that our people are connected to us, we are connected to them. We use video a lot now. Okay, we try and make yourself available on video so people can see you, so they can
True, true.
experience you, right? Because when you're in office, you're seeing each other. Even if it's at a distance, you're available, right? How do you make yourself available at at this point of time? I think that's something that we're doing. The other thing that we have started doing from a culture perspective is have more fun.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
what I have, for example, personally started doing is, my staff, which happens on a Tuesday, every staff starts with a fun game. So I have two people who pair up across the globe. So I ensure they're not in the same country. I pair them up and they come up with a one game.
Oh,
We have fun. We laugh for first 10 minutes of the staff. So that's something that we've done, and it's something that people are doing across, right? The other thing that we have institutionalized as a culture is we don't start the meeting at the hour. So if it's
oh,
an hour-long meeting, we've reduced the meeting to 50 minutes, and we start 10 minutes later. So what happens is you get those 10 minutes space to kind of stretch yourself, go say a hello to your child. Some things, take a bio break,
yeah, yeah.
just get out of the chair, literally.
Correct.
So those are the kind of things that we're doing on a culture perspective. On a technology perspective, I've already talked about the kind of things that we have enabled our people. One of the things that we have also done is some of our people actually went to their hometowns,
Hmm.
which was away from a hub and stuff like that, and they were not prepared. They were on a vacation, they couldn't get back, or when they realized that there was going to be a lockdown, they went home because they were staying in a PG here. PGs were going to close, they didn't know what was the future. Now all these people sometimes Some of them have connectivity problems, some don't. The
Mm.
people who have connectivity problems, okay, we have try to ensure that they get the data cards. Now,
Mm.
if you have a connectivity problem and you are not allowed, you are not able to connect, we have granted them leave, right? So it's a paid leave if you cannot work. But those are really handful of the cases. For the
Yeah,
cases,
sure that.
some people who were on a holiday didn't carry their laptop. We have given them provisions. If you have your own personal laptop, okay, you can connect into your desktop in the
Ah,
office, because most of us were in the pivotal way of working. We had one desktop, two monitors, two people working. You can connect through VDI. So we have enabled that. We have used leverage technology, we have leveraged our facilities teams to actually ensure that if there is an onboarding happening, okay, the same laptop experience is provided to people who are joining us, right? Offers have already been made. People are joining on day one. Once they've completed the virtual onboarding process, a laptop reaches them in the evening. For people who are joining in from non-urban locations, like where we don't have offices, we have enabled VDI for them. So
okay.
if they have a personal equipment, we've enabled VDI for them. From a process perspective, we were very engaged in the XP way of working, which was a pair programming and stuff like that. We've actually created guidelines on how you could pair together,
Mhm.
okay, how you could leverage conferencing technologies to pair together, what should be the guidelines, how long should you pair, and at what stage should you take a break and stuff like that. So there is a framework which we have kind of built in the next 1 month or so, which I believe positions us to be ready if this continues for more time in the near future.
God forbid. Uh, I quite liked how you articulated that, Shinam. Uh, but I'm now going to ask you in perhaps a question in the form of a leader who's also coming across as a visionary. Is there are lots of folks here who, post the lifting of the lockdown, post hypothetically things coming back to a sense of normalcy, uh, will also want to use this experience to perhaps craft newer concepts of work spaces, workplaces. The workforce or a gig economy of sorts is already clear and present. But perhaps also reimagine the concept of work by itself. Now, what in your estimate is the real guidance that you would like to impart for organizations that want to and therefore should reimagine the concept of workspaces?
Good question. And I have been actually thinking about this because it's been a month since we've been
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
Yeah. And India's just announced a lockdown for another three
3 weeks.
weeks. Um, if this becomes a norm, let's say for a little bit more extended period of time, and maybe if you have to do this for a quarter together, I think um, business has to continue. Okay.
Mm,
and and the way we are working leads us to reimagine what the future could look like,
mm,
right? um, so if I start from pure in something that I'm passionate about, um, is the talent pool available, right? I just see immense amount of opportunity for us to get diverse talent into our workforce, okay, and really enable better business outcomes therefore, because suddenly you have people who possibly cannot come to office,
mm,
have a special ability. Suddenly you have all of those women who took a break for whatever reason,
mm,
okay, who can be treated as restarters, and who can be who can be made who can be inducted into your included into your organization even on a part-time basis.
yeah,
So
yeah,
really the diversity aspect of a workforce can change tremendously because the
true that.
potential to hire is so high. If I have to look at how they work, the people at work will have to communicate with each other. I think there will have to be a greater emphasis on building relationships.
Mm,
We've all grown up saying face to face is important, meeting together is important. That's why you need to travel out and stuff like that, right? When you meet each other face to face, you build a bond that you can then take over on a telephone conversation later. But if you're not able to meet, okay, what is it and how do you really forge and cement new relationships going
Relationships.
forward? Yeah. So I think that's going to be also a new norm. From a sheer technology perspective, I think there will be a very enhanced perspective of and focus on security
True
and
that.
privacy. Yeah, governance. I think these three will become very, very important because you will suddenly have your workforce connected from different places across the globe. You will have your workforce, sitting and working from different kinds of equipment. If you can't, if they have their own equipment and they're on VDI, how do you enable endpoint security and
Yeah.
how do you enable edge security, right? And really, the technology solutions in those two have to become far more robust, in my
Mm, mm,
opinion. From really a work perspective, I think there will be a huge focus, in my opinion, on open source, on crowdsourcing, your solutions. We've already started seeing a lot of crowdsourcing. We've already seen developers today, the millennials and the Gen Zs of today, wanting to, focus out on open source technology. I do believe that will become far more relevant in the future, in terms of picking up solutions that can match with each other and us really opening up our doors to development that's happening outside of the office. And how do you kind of insource it and still leverage the open source environment? So to my extent, I think those are really the key things. We have already seen a high usage of RPA.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
we already
Yes.
see humans working with bots. I think that will increase. The entire concept of 3D printing, in
Mm.
my opinion, will be very high. So I see in the next 10, 12 years, focus would be higher on automation, on RPA. AI will continue, AML will continue. But I do also see from a technology perspective, 3D printing becoming far more relevant to all of us.
Well, that makes absolute sense. But I also have a view on the clock, and we've got about 3 minutes left. So
Okay.
I am going to come to you, Shinam, with a question that I think is on everybody's mind today. Sheena Mori, what is your view on how the workspace in 2030 is going to look like? In fact, are we even going to have a workspace? Are organizations going to figure whether workspaces are required at all, given the power that technology enables us to achieve? Uh, are physical spaces going to become redundant? Uh, Shinamori, what's your take on that?
I think it would be a combination of both, right? Because um, meeting face to face, the benefits of that, I don't believe you can get by doing a call like this, right?
To that?
This is really a situation which is exceptional. But technology will enable you to do a lot of things anytime, anywhere, any place, on any device. And maybe it will also be deviceless. All right. You could possibly have a 5G connection that can leverage you to do something on your wall itself, right? Now, all of your science fiction movies can come true. But I think the way I see it, it would be a balance, okay? And the balance will really tilt towards working anywhere, any place, and
Agnostic of
really,
time and space.
yes, yes. So I think that balance will tilt there. But can we do away with the workplace, a physical workplace? I don't think so. At least I don't believe that you should do away with it totally. But it will
Ah,
possibly be, it will be on a need to come basis and stuff like that.
Shinam, I'm just going to ask you also in the same breath. We are in the 32nd day. Uh, or the 23rd day, sorry.
23rd.
How's it been for you individually, personally? How have you managed to enjoy your moments despite evidently the expanse and the spread of the work that you have, the responsibilities, your accountability at a global level? How have you managed to retain sanity and continue to have fun?
So it's not been an easy journey. The first 3 days, right? W- work, right?
So that.
It just the day started at 7 a.m., ended at 10:30. And Wednesday evening, I was like, what the hell, man? I just want the week to end. I just want my weekend to come. So what I did was I actually prioritized certain things. So I have calendarized breaks.
Oh,
So
lovely.
every 2.5 hours, I take a half an hour break. Um, One of the things that is a privilege because of this is that at least twice or thrice in a week, my spouse and I can have lunch together.
Uh,
Okay, we hardly used to have a meal together when we were kind of going to the physical offices, but we're trying to do lunches together, and we try and see if we can sync up our calendars for that. Um, I find gardening very calming, so I try and spend half an hour doing something in my little terrace garden um, to kind of unwind myself. I've read a couple of books in the last 1 month.
Lovely.
Fiction, pure fiction, nothing to do with work, nothing to do with leadership. I've enjoyed doing that. I think I'm over a stage where the Netflix, Amazon Prime stage has gone away.
Sure.
So I'm no longer hooked to a device for entertainment, but yes, trying to do some reading, trying to do some gardening, trying to catch up with friends that I have never caught up with. So one of the things that I do every day is I call one friend on video
Oh,
uh, and and try and reestablish connection. So those are the kind of things that I'm trying to do.
brilliant. Sheena Mori, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sheena Mori, the lady herself at the center of all that is innovation and technology led at Dell Digital. Sheenam, it has been nothing short of a privilege to have spoken with you and hearing your views and experience. We wish you all the best and very, very grateful that you could make it to join us today. Thank you so very much, Sheena.
Thank you, Arjun. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good day, everyone. I'm Shantanu Ganguly, Chief Customer Officer of Strategic. I'm sure all of you are immensely enjoying this rich content and insightful conversations we are having as part of this virtual conference. So today in this session, we have a very interesting chat titled Security in the Age of Digital Workspaces. And I'm privileged to have two eminent experts with me on this discussion. Uh, Amit Dhawan, Chief Information Security Officer and Data Protection Officer of BirlaSoft. Welcome, Amit. And secondly, I have Trevor Labrie. Trevor is the Regional Account Executive responsible for security solutions with Dell Technologies. And welcome, Trevor. Uh, and the good part is that in spite of the ongoing pandemic situation where most of us are compelled to work from home, this digital collaboration, the digital workspace solutions that we are currently talking of in this virtual conference uh, is allowing us to join virtually, meet, collaborate. So Amit and I are from India, based out of Delhi NCR region. Trevor joins in from Singapore. So the country barriers, the I would say the opportunity to collaborate in a boundaryless, borderless manner is very much possible with technology today. And so in that context, I'll start with Amit first. Amit, today's virtual conference theme is more around digital workspace and technology solutions of digital workspace. So when it comes to uh, security and in context of future of work or digital workspace, how relevant do you see the these concepts of future of work and digital workspace in context of information security and cybersecurity?
So thanks, Shantanu. Good day, everybody, and good to be part of this discussion. Uh, we have landed into a situation which is unprecedented. We've never heard this before. We never uh, actually went through these scenarios before. So, talking on the positive side, this is going to bring a huge change in the way we see things, in the way we work. I like to break your question into three. That is workforce, workspace, work culture. So, workforce and work culture are, more or less related. This new change or the change that is going to come after we get over this crisis, we'll see a major shift in how we operate. We will see a lot of change in the technologies for enablement. Uh, we will have a lot of you know cross skilling as far as the work culture is concerned, as far as the workforce is concerned. From a security standpoint, we will have to rethink the way we've been thinking security. Uh, we'll probably have to create an agile control framework to ensure safety of interest and data of our own company and our customers. We have, I'm part of the IT services company, and most of our activities and workspaces and work culture is defined by the companies themselves, or by our customers themselves. So, we as provider are changing. We are already seeing a lot of change in the way customers are expecting their security to be defined. So, the major task is to monitor, client priorities and propositions dynamically. They are also considering it from our side as well, and we will. I think the industry itself will land into a place uh, which enables a different working environment, working from home, enablement of resources. That mindset of BFSI to be working purely from a locked environment, those days are gone. We already have a number of BFSI customers where people are working from home. So that is where it was a major challenge, and that is being resolved. So I'll stop here. Uh, take it on with Trevor, and maybe we can have more questions after that.
Perfect. Thanks, Amit. So, Trevor, shifting the spotlight to you, I know Dell Technologies have been investing significantly to expand and broaden its security offering portfolio. So, what, as per you, would be some of the strategic priorities of Dell Technologies in context of security?
Yeah, good day, Sadhna, and thank you again for inviting me to this event. I hope everyone's enjoying it and learning a lot from it. Really, Dell kind of perceives security as kind of the brakes on a car. We want to make sure that organizations feel safe to move forward, and Dell's done a very good job themselves of being able to move forward with work from home implementation, and from my time within the organization, I've always been able to work from home quite freely. And we've done this not only with our own security, but with partner security portfolios as well. So I think at the core of what we want to do for organizations is empower the people, empower the employees to be able to work from wherever they need to. And this gives the organizations flexibility, not only through this current situation, but moving forward as well. And do so by simplifying security. And that's where my organization really comes in, and where Dell has made a lot of investment. In the last few years, we've invested about $6 billion in security organizations to bring into our portfolio so that we can try and consolidate not only endpoint management, but endpoint security. And this will hopefully allow our organizations we work with to embrace risk and embrace uncertainty, because they have those brakes on that McLaren that'll stop it from that high speed. It'll help them also as an organization make sure that when they have to move quickly and adapt to an environment like what's happening today, they have that risk control in place through the security solutions.
Excellent, Trevor. Thank you. And Amit, I take simplification as a keyword from what Trevor said, and I come to you with my next question. One thing I see again, my IT security friends grapple with is the element of or the extent of heterogeneity of security tools and procedures that exist in any large IT landscape, and then it's not easy. It's multi-vendor. It's procured in different point in time, and it's in some are old, some are new, and there's this tremendous complexity to manage. The second point is the continual emergence of newer types of threat, and that often again is very complex to deal with, and most of the teams are in reactive mode, catch up mode, because this endlessly continues. You sort of end up fixing some of them, get control over some of those, and a few new threats or risk profiles emerges. So heterogeneity and changing profile of threats and risk, any golden nuggets as per your experience that your peers can benefit from? How to stay ahead of the curve? How to stay proactive?
Uh, I think I'll take two keywords out of this. One is simplicity, and I'll go back to what Trevor said about brakes in a car, in a McLaren car. So, old saying, and I'll start with the second element. So, an old saying: why do you need brakes on a car? So, you need brakes on a car not to stop your car, but to enable you to go faster. Okay, because you know that there are brakes which will support you when the time comes that you need to stop. So brakes, I think the security here are the brakes in a company which will enable you to go faster. If you do not have brakes, probably you'll not drive at 40 miles per hour as well. If you have brakes, you might go up to 200 plus because you know you can stop. So security is an enabler. Coming to the first part of the tools, I would say it is the simplicity which is very important. Suddenly you find all your assets are spread all over the world. The visibility of your assets, your infrastructure uh, is becoming a key. Now security, as I said, is finding itself in a driver's seat with huge amount of responsibility. So what we need to do is rethink on our traditional security models, not to go by the lingo the vendors bring out, because they will try to encompass all possible use cases in the tools that they have. So look at your spread of infrastructure, look at your spread of assets, your spread of data, and then look at the requirements that you need to meet. When you put it simply, there are as old people, olden age statements are that you look at only confidentiality, integrity, availability. If you go back to those principles, it will solve a lot of your problems. The fourth thing that has come in is privacy. So to give a point wise answer, you need to know where your assets are, rethink your strategy on how to manage this data and privacy spread. Look very importantly at incident management, because with all those things spread around, even your incident response teams are working from their own houses. It is very difficult to communicate. So look at incident responses, look at the support services, because that is where the first thing starts. Uh, and engage with your customers, because they need to understand where you are, what you need to provide them. So have a rethink on the complete strategy of security and roadmap. The traditional models might work, might not work. So have a rethink. This total environment is different and new. Uh, you know, have different policies, have different proofs of work. Uh, so that is overall picture that I would suggest that people should look at: your visibility, your incident management, your support structure, and your regulatory compliances on how you manage breaches, how you inform people about breaches, and how do you, manage your security dashboards.
Excellent. I'm sure that's immensely beneficial and valuable to our audience today. So, Trevor, coming back to you with the next question, this would be more around the portfolio of security-centric offerings that Dell Technologies have. And if I think about that in context of a digital workspace, what comes to my mind is definitely a device through which I'm sort of accessing, and then an endpoint basically. Second would be my data. Third would be anything around the network. Fourth would be anything to do with any of the applications that I use on the endpoint. So, or the fifth dimension I can think of is possibly anything around identity access management or privileged access management. So, keeping in context of our digital workspace, what would be the, I would say, key highlights of the portfolio of solution offerings Dell Technologies have?
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of get back to basics in some ways right now. As Amit was saying, we want to keep it as simple as possible when we're looking at security and looking at protecting these new environments that we're building. And some of that simplicity is really awareness and visibility to the endpoints. Even traditionally, organizations can struggle with that visibility, and now we're sending them all over the world and to homes, and we don't know, how they're connecting back. And Dell's had a great partner for a number of years called Absolute Software, and their whole key position is visibility of endpoints. So how do we make sure we're always connected to an endpoint, regardless what network it is, where it is in the world, and giving that visibility back. And we're doing the same thing as well with our Workspace ONE solution and unified workspace capabilities to make sure that we're consolidating additional data points into a single console, so we have that data more easily available to the IT teams and to the incident management teams. I think from data-centric and making sure that the data is secure, this is, it goes a few different ways. Sometimes we're thinking physically, is that device possibly going to end up in somebody's hands when it shouldn't be? It's obviously, remote access and people hacking or possibly putting ransomware on an endpoint that then encrypts all the data on the endpoint or whatever it might be. And the way we tackle it might be from different, depending on the attack vector, we'll just determine, what's a better solution. The basics again, encryption. Are your devices encrypted? If they're now being more mobile, if there's that possibility that that device may end up in the hands of somebody that isn't or shouldn't have that data, it definitely needs to be encrypted. And Dell's had an encryption solution for many years. It's unique in that it's a policy-based encryption tool. So based on who that user is, what that user does for the organization, that tool will then encrypt those files and that data that's important to that type of user. And it makes it a bit easier to manage, and it makes it a bit more secure because it's focused on the data that's important to the organization. Network side, this is going to be quite unique, and really what my team focuses on is a bit more about how those devices connect back, as well as the application security. And we work with a partner called Netscope in that situation. And Netscope is really an organization that's designed around cloud security and the idea of zero trust. So you don't want to trust anybody that get into your environment that you want in there. And they've done a great job of bringing in the cloud access security. They're doing a good job now with a zero trust framework that allows organizations to connect into corporate solutions that they would normally need a VPN or MPLS security technology put in place, which can be quite expensive. So they do this just through application security and their own servers. And then I think finally, protecting from the attackers. Some of the stuff we've seen in the news recently is actually these ransomware gangs have been saying, we won't be attacking anybody in the healthcare space. We're going to be nice. We're not going to go after them. But the concern then is, okay, are they going to be just kind of living off the land and sitting in wait and possibly attacking later on? And that's where our investment in Carbon Black really comes in. Carbon Black is a fantastic tool, not only for like antivirus and virus protection, but more importantly for this kind of newer technology called EDR. It's been around for a few years, but it's kind of the next adoption for organizations to go to. And from a security perspective, it's really like having, a CCTV system on all of your endpoints and monitoring all the endpoint actions. So what that allows for is if a ransomware attack is happening on an endpoint, it'll give awareness, it'll pipe that awareness back to the IT teams, to the security teams, so they can take action more immediately.
Excellent. I think in a hybrid multi-cloud world that we all live in, and we add the current situation of sort of 100% remote working that all of us are having to do. In that context, this whole formidable portfolio that you spoke of, and with an overall overarching zero trust framework, that's the fundamental premise of this composite framework. I think that's a very strong portfolio that you have to offer to the market. Maybe in the interest of time, I'll go one more round to each of you, and Amit, I'll start with you in this context. So coming to the current situation where this is abrupt disruption and all of us are suddenly in a very short span of time having to move into a work from home arrangement. And so from a IT leadership standpoint, you have to consider so many changes, right? Think about the front end part of each employee. Think of okay, as the data or the communication comes back into a data center where things are hosted or somewhere in the cloud, what changes you need to manage both the front end and back end, and then make certain awareness campaigns, make certain change management procedures from a governance and then policy standpoint. So all this, I would say, diverse dimensions of change management that you had to do as a leader, and make sure that you still sort of ensure business continuity, ensure continuity of your critical business functions with minimal disruption. Again, any key learning of change management that you want to share that can benefit others?
So as I spoke about earlier, your work environment itself will be changing. So therefore, your security requirements and therefore your policies and procedures, all of them are going to change. I can see two major normals after this. One is cloud and one is BYOD. So the cloud for technology enablement as well as security implementations. The only constant that will continue and will probably have a little more impetus would be your measurement and metrics. How do you measure and how do you assure that your business is running well and your security is in place? So measurement metrics are two big things. With this, probably there'll be a lot of new regulatory compliances coming in as well. As I spoke about breach management, that is breach intimation and all that stuff, there might be new regulatory compliances coming in. Third-party risk management, both our downstream vendors as well as our customers, the way they look at us and how do we provide things to them, will also have a new dimension. So all these things are going to change. Only thing is, the strength by which they change might vary, but cloud, BYOD, your policies, your measurement and metrics, how you do that, your regulatory new regulatory, possibly new regulatory compliances, and third-party risk management. These are the major drivers or changes that I see in the coming months after we get over the COVID-19 situation.
Spot on. Thank you.
So just to add one more element, we are forgetting people in this. So when we talk about people, and that is a huge challenge and opportunity that we have within the organization, is to ensure that people are trained and aware on security. So the mindset that I see is while people are sitting in office, they feel they are protected and they're not that responsible to the security things that they should be doing for customer or for the company. But I'm seeing a major shift that now that people are sitting at home, they are taking a lot of ownership of the security. So, we always used to say that the risk has to come, from the people. Now that will probably start happening. I'm already seeing that change happening. People are taking more responsibility, are becoming more aware. And yes, from an organization perspective, we also have to continue training them and letting them know of the new threats, because new technology means new threats. So, this is one major factor, and people will be taking accountability and will be responsible for ensuring security of the company.
Appreciate. Thanks, Amit. Trevor, quick 90 seconds with you. Anything specific in this current lockdown situation that you want your customers to remember, or how some of your existing customers are benefiting from your solutions and offerings portfolio?
I think, from a Dell perspective, especially Dell Technologies perspective, we need to communicate outwardly, and we hope our customers understand, is that we don't just sell laptops and servers anymore. We are a full technology organization. We have solutions that are specifically designed for a work from home environment. We have a significant investment in these solutions as well, not only from just security, but from management, awareness, everything plugging back into SIEM solutions, etc. So I hope that, and I think our customers have been actively engaged with us to understand how they can get through this from a single source, or at least from a well-known and a well-prescribed source, because I think Dell has done a very good job of being able to move into this situation quite effortlessly. And to Alma's point, being able to train your users and make them aware that security is going to change a bit for themselves. Something as simple as making sure that your router password is secure. These are just little things that you want to have your end users knowing. It goes beyond any solution or technology. It's just, at the end of the day, the person in front of the keyboard can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It just depends on how we make sure we enable these users.
Perfect. I think, gentlemen, I wish we had more time to sort of endlessly continue our conversation, but in the interest of time, we have to sort of wrap it up now. But truly appreciate Amit and Trevor, you taking time off. I think Amit highlighted about the new normal of remote working, and this is changing and is going to change further the way security leaders are rethinking about their strategy, about their tools, about their technologies, about their people orientation, awareness, training, etc., to make sure that it is a two-way or a multi-party ownership and responsibility, that all stakeholders do their respective bit to make sure collective security posture and position is as bulletproof and as tight. And likewise from Trevor, thank you for outlining the extensive and very comprehensive, robust portfolio of security offerings of Dell Technologies, especially around digital workspaces. And I'm sure your clients continue and will continue to benefit from this, I would say, robust and rugged portfolio solution that you have. Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate you both joining here. We'll keep in touch, and all the best. Good day to both of you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shantanu.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Trevor. Thanks, Shantanu.
Hi, my name is Vivek, and I lead product and brand marketing for the commercial client solutions business of Dell Technologies in India. At the outset, let me extend a very warm welcome to all IT professionals and senior leaders who are joining us for the virtual event today. I also hope that you and your families are keeping safe in these unprecedented times. As part of the agenda, I wanted to cover 3 topics. Number 1, why is workforce transformation important for organizations that are starting their digital transformation journey? And what are some of the IT challenges that you will be facing? Number two, an introduction to Dell Unified Workspace solution. Number three, how can Pro Deploy for Unified Workspace help your organizations? So without further ado, let me get into the presentation. Before we start, let me set some context. In today's world, every organization needs to have a digital face. As the IT teams adapt to this change, the way the workforce operates is evolving, and the tools IT requires to enable workforce productivity is also changing. So what are we at Dell Technologies seeing in the market today? Number one, more employees will need work from home solutions. At the same time, IT teams will have to deliver the best user or employee experience without compromising on data security. Also, businesses will demand higher levels of workforce productivity from the IT teams. Therefore, in summary, IT will have to adapt to the new norm by putting employees first. So having said this context, let's spend a few minutes to understand how is the operating environment around PCs today. As you can see on this slide, the operating environment for a typical PC deployment or the PC lifecycle is very complex. A few things I would like to call out. Number one, managing user experience from device provisioning standpoint all the way up to retirement is a very challenging task. Some organizations take up to 30 hours to deploy a PC today. As you can see on this slide, you have multiple form factors that coexist from different vendors which operate across multiple operating systems, all of them trying to access applications and data either on-prem, remote, or in the air. On the other hand, if you look at what do end users or workforces require, they want zero downtime, hassle-free, almost self-service enabled from IT. Therefore, IT needs to actually allow for flexible workforce productivity. I think the key question that is coming up is how can IT deliver this experience if they are stuck doing routine non-value added tasks for a lot of their daily routine? This involves managing device lifecycle events, for example. So at Dell, we actually thought about this and we went back to our own customers and worked customer backwards on what is it that they want to see from a workforce transformation solution and what do they want to see in a partner. So the following things came out. Number one, they wanted to work with a partner who had the knowledge and the expertise and someone that they could trust. Number two, they wanted to see a fully integrated solution that will help IT focus its efforts on business critical tasks. Number three, they wanted a solution that can scale along with demand. So we took all these inputs, went back to the drawing board, and then went about designing a solution that can meet the user requirements. So now we've completed the first part of the conversation, which is the context setting and why is workforce transformation important. Now we'll move to the second part of the conversation, which is all about what is Dell Unified Workspace all about. Dell Unified Workspace is the industry's most comprehensive solution to help IT teams deploy, secure, manage, and support virtually all devices from the cloud. So what does it have? Number one, integrates Dell devices, VMware Workspace ONE, which is the leading unified endpoint management software in the market, endpoint and threat detection software from SecureWorks, as well as Dell Professional Services, all packaged together. What does it do for you? Two simple things: automates IT tasks across the life cycle of the endpoint and delivers consistent IT and end user experience across the device life cycle. So therefore, with this, IT can now spend more time on strategy and lesser time on operational tasks. Let me break this down for you to the next level of detail. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, this slide gives you an overview of what are the building blocks behind Dell Unified Workspace. Across the 4 pillars that you see here, which is deploy, secure, manage, and support, let's go one at a time. Within the deployment piece, we have Pro Deploy for Unified Workspace as one of the first parts. And we'll talk about this in a fair level of detail in the coming slides. The second part, which is the security pillar, delivers the best trusted and security experience that you can get from any OEM. What this has is the best endpoint threat detection and remediation software from SecureWorks, including Carbon Black from VMware. Additionally, it also comes with Safe ID and Safe BIOS, which are firmware level protection mechanisms that come with each and every Dell device. Safe BIOS gives you protection for BIOS level security incidents that can happen. Safe ID is hardware level end user credential encryption features. VMware Workspace ONE needs no introduction to all of you. It is a leading unified endpoint management software in the market today. And last but not the least, the award-winning Dell Professional Services is also packaged. So in a nutshell, through Unified Workspace, customers can now consume all these services in a flexible consumption model. As I said earlier, we'll spend most of our time on Pro Deploy with a Unified Workspace, which is the third part of our conversation. So let's move on to that part. Like in the earlier sections, let's first understand how does traditional PC deployment happen in the market today. The traditional approach to PC deployment, as you can see, is labor intensive and has multiple handoffs. In fact, our data indicates that it takes many days to configure and deliver a PC within a lot of the leading enterprises as well as large-scale organizations. So this is a pain point we definitely want to address through Pro Deploy. Move to what Pro Deploy can offer you. It is a modern way of PC deployment. As you can see, it reduces a lot of the handoffs, but more importantly, let me tell you what it can really do for you. With Pro Deploy, all IT needs to do is build a package of applications and a custom configuration file and send it over to Dell. Devices are custom provisioned with Workspace ONE and shipped to the end user's home or office location. All security policies and applications are available in the Workspace ONE profile itself. It also comes with asset tagging, data migration, and on-site installation services. In summary, it ensures day one productivity for all your employees. So what does it actually entail from an activity perspective? This slide is fairly detailed, but let me simplify it for you. There are roughly 5 key steps that you will need to do when you opt for Pro Deploy on Unified Workspace. First step is the organization needs to send a baseline of applications as well as a configuration file. We call it a .ppkg file over to Dell. Then Dell loads the operating system and custom applications which are part of the ppkg file onto the system at the factory itself. The device is then shipped to the end user. All the user needs to do is sign on using his credentials. All the last mile settings, applications, as well as user provided access to the catalog of authorized apps by his organization will get downloaded, which is the last step. In addition to this, what this truly gives you is a zero touch restore functionality, i.e., you can do a PC reset or recovery over the cloud. More importantly, applications, OS, firmware, and below the operating system controls, including firmware settings, can be controlled and updated remotely. No other product today in the market can give you this level of flexibility and control. So, more specifically, how does this solution help you manage the sprawl of devices and operating systems? As you can see on this slide, it is a truly scalable and versatile solution. It can work across device form factors, mobile, PCs, even IoT devices are supported. More importantly, supports iOS, Android, as well as Windows operating system and Chrome OS. So it's a truly scalable solution that can support heterogeneous environments that you may have within your organizations. Having come this far, the last part of the discussion is actually to tell you what are some of the different options that we offer within the Pro Deploy client suite itself. So you can choose for either a basic deployment or the Pro Deploy Basic, as well as the Pro Deploy Plus. The Pro Deploy gives you the basic functionality to provision Workspace ONE from factory itself. But as you move across from left to right, Pro Deploy, for example, includes imaging and 24/7 on-site installation. Pro Deploy Plus is extremely flexible. In addition to imaging and on-site installation, it also gives you data migration and additional post-deployment support facilities. And our research indicates that the Pro Deploy Plus package can actually reduce deployment time by more than 50%. That's a significant productivity improvement for your IT teams. So let's wrap up today's conversation by summarizing what are some of the differentiators of Dell Unified Workspace vis-a-vis what you get in the market. Needless to say, we are an industry leader when it comes to innovation within devices. It offers you simplified deployment for day one productivity, which we explained, a very modern endpoint management solution, which gives you support for heterogeneous environments. It is very flexible, as we discussed, and the security foundation which comes with SecureWorks software is unmatched, including Carbon Black. And the last part is the goodness that comes with our award-winning professional services package. So in summary, you have the most comprehensive solution for improving IT and workforce productivity. So I just want to summarize at the end and also give you what are some of the takeaways that are coming from this discussion. Two things. Number one, it is very important to look at both user and IT productivity when you are thinking about digital transformation. The second part is when you go with the choice of solutions, do think about not just the device level productivity, think about a holistic integrated solution which combines the device, security aspect, the endpoint management, as well as professional services. And it should offer you the flexibility to consume on the go. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's discussion. It was a pleasure speaking to all of you. I'm sure you have many more questions. Please reach out to your account manager or to our marketing teams to set up a more detailed one-on-one conversation on this topic. Thank you for your time. All the very best to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We now come to the near end of what's been a very long day, yet one that is promised to be and has truly and indeed been extremely interesting and immersive, given the rich content that our esteemed panelists and subject matter experts, both externally as well as internally from Dell Technologies, VMware, and Microsoft have brought in. And I'm sure that each of you would have equally enjoyed the sessions that were played out today. Uh, I would like to take this opportunity first, really, to welcome Shantanu Ganguly, Chief Customer Officer Strategy, a very senior colleague of mine. Shantanu, thank you. Welcome once again back into the session. It's always a delight to be able to chat with you. And in no specific order, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the folks at Dell Technologies, VMware, and Microsoft, and no questions for the number of people who were participative and enthusiastic within this entire event. Sachin Gupta from Usha International, big round of gratitude to you, sir. Amit Das, Chief Human Resource Officer at the Bennett and Coleman Company Limited. Thank you once again. Mr. Amit Dhawan, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer at BirlaSoft. Thank you very much. Trevor Labrie, a security expert from Dell Technologies, who joined us all the way from Singapore. Thank you, Trevor. On the panel, I would equally like to thank Prajit Nair from VMware, senior leader at VMware. Thank you, Prajit. Bob Batchelor, who made it a point to join us all the way from Singapore again. He's the sales director at Dell Technologies in the APAC region. I would obviously also like to thank Vivekanand Manjari from Dell Technologies for his keynote and Mr. Saji Kumar from Microsoft for his keynote session. Thank you all. It really wouldn't have happened and been possible to have this level of enthusiasm and the richness of content that you've helped us bring to the table, had it not been for your proactive and very passionate commitment to it. Uh, but I will take this opportunity really to perhaps have a quick banter with Shantanu on how certain sessions have been, and we will, between the two of us, try to summarize this entire event over the next course of the next 10 minutes or so. So Shantanu, your very, very interesting topic of security in the age of digital workspaces that you had with Amit Dhawan and Trevor earlier today. What really were your key takeaways? What should the audience really take back as positive messaging from this?
Thank you, Arjun. I think I had a really insightful fireside chat discussion with Amit as well as Trevor. From Amit, who's an accomplished CISO and data protection officer, I think I got some golden nuggets and best practices around how to be a proactive CISO, how to stay ahead of the curve via standardizing on technology tools, then leveraging some of the AI, ML, and native intelligence of the tools and technologies of security. So because security typically involves large volume of alerts and tons of false positives. So it is simply impossible to manually sort of filter out, deduplicate all that. So you really need to have very intelligent and I would say smart and AI enabled tools to sort of filter that out. Uh, of course, on processes and optimizing processes, governance around security, having a very methodical, systematic approach towards management and reaction, response, mitigation of risk, proactively tracking what's surfacing up, patching your backend or various devices or I would say equipment in accordance. And last but not the least, there is an increasing emphasis on user awareness around training to make sure that users themselves, through their level of knowledge and I would say self-action and self-defense, are able to promote security and as much be in a preventive mode.
That's so,
Trevor,
so very true.
Trevor, of course, outlined highlights of the very comprehensive security portfolio that Dell Technologies have, right from some very unique encryption technologies to protecting endpoints, to protecting your mobile devices, and then to take care of the network side of challenges, etc. So that sort of overall, the comprehensive, I would say, portfolio empowers users. It helps simplify security overall, be built on the native intelligence that the tools bring to the table, and of course allow business organizations holistically to embrace security risks with a lot of confidence.
Oh, outstanding, outstanding. And I could just imagine how enjoyable that would have been. In fact, I must bring some points from my conversation with Sheena Mori, who is the vice president at Dell Digital. I had a business dialogue with her that was kind of titled At the Brink, Crafting Experiences in the Age of Digital Workspaces. And well, Sheenan's really done it at Dell. 150,000 employees across the globe was what they ensured were up, ready, and running within about a week, just about a week from the time that the lockdown was announced in parts at various parts of the globe. So the US was much earlier, of course, and then other countries came in, and then we were in India at a certain point. And really, when I was inquiring from her and trying to understand how they did it, I think she brought out four very, very clear points. The first was that the technology has always been available. And therefore, for organizations that are trying to mitigate business continuity risks today, or even craft experiences for a very different kind of workforce that is coming into the mainstream. People who are classically working agnostic of time and space in what is really a borderless world today. She was very, very clear. She said the technology is being available. So the most important thing that organizations can do really is to plan ahead and plan early, which essentially means that you map all your employees with respect to the levels of important tasks that they're doing, with the levels of information that they will need to continue to perform their tasks in a certain manner, and to be able to have that blueprint of sorts ready so that when you're actually implementing digital workspaces and a work from home kind of an operating model that we are seeing today, planning early by creating a blueprint is what is first, of course, imperative. The second that she said was to have a very, very clear strategy around why you want to do it, what you want to do it by, and really what are those gains in terms of business metrics that you want to achieve out of the entire thing. And she said it very clearly. She said, you'd be surprised to know that contrary to public opinion and perception, the productivity at Dell Technologies across the globe has in fact gone up over the period of time that they've been working from home. And that when she had spoken with Michael Dell, she had made it very, very clear, saying these are the kind of metrics that we are looking at, and this is how it's going to go up. So that makes it much, much more easier when organizations plan it well in advance. The third, of course, she said, was to foster a culture of collaboration. And she brought a very interesting point where she said, if you really look at it, contrary to working in physical spaces where we are seeing each other physically and so on and so forth, the levels of collaboration have in fact gone up at unprecedented levels, because this is truly when employees across the globe feel the need to either collaborate in one form or the other, which is mostly digital, of course, to be able to really bring out the kind of productivity gains that Dell Technologies is seeing. And last but not the least, she said, there's never going to be enough of communication. So long as you continue to constantly and consistently communicate with your organization, with your employees, you should do it. While equally realizing that, well, working from home can also have its own added levels of stress, considering that household chores are also there, is that it's important to take uh, short breaks in between. So if you're working straight on for about 2 hours, it makes sense to walk around the house for the next 20 minutes so that you are you're consciously giving your body and mind the rest. So I think it was spectacular speaking with such an experienced hand as Sheena Mori. And I feel much the better for having had that business dialogue with her. So
Very
quite
interesting.
nice, quite nice.
That's very interesting, Arjun. In fact, as I was thinking, listening to what you were saying, one thing that we could save now in the remote working arrangement mode is our commuting time on the streets
Oh,
during our business as usual time when we typically commute to our place of work, or in between those of us who are into the field meeting clients, moving from one office to the other. In some of the large metro cities, given the congestion, given the distances, there's significant hours of the day that we ended up spending on traffic and on commuting. So that's something we retrieve back now in a work from home mode, and that sort of adds to our productivity efficiency in terms of time.
in fact, Shantanu, you'll find it surprising was that when we conducted the Digital Workspaces of the Future India sentiment study, where we went to 335 unique organizations in IT, finance, and human resource leaders, quite a lot of the organizations actually said, this a lot of um, the new normal as you see it now, or as we see it now, is forcing us to reimagine what the workspace of the future will really look like, and whether indeed uh, the classic traditional concepts of the workspace will ever exist anymore, because the future of technology really has kind of inflected with the future of work to bring out what really is a new norm, where there are no traditional approaches that work anymore, and we've seen that amply. And very importantly too, is that this new norm seems to have also caught on. So, I mean, a lot of the finance leaders specifically were talking from the point of view of the humongous cost optimizations that would be possible if large scale rents were not to be necessarily paid. Or at least, like Bob was talking earlier, he said a lot of countries have also now gone down to 4 week, 4 day weeks, which gives people an extended weekend because the same amount of work that you were doing physically within an office space in 5 days. If organizations can figure that the same work's getting done in about 5 days with increased productivity and commitment, can we give people off? So the whole concept, I personally feel of the work-life balance is also changing considerably. And I think that really will be very interesting. But Shantanu, I do have a view on the clock. I'm just going to ask you for your closing statements. And I'd like you to use your good offices to thank both the participants, the speakers, as well as this wonderful audience that's been with us today. Please.
Sure. Thank you, Arjun, and thanks everybody to our esteemed audience who took the time off today and attended our virtual conference. So I'm sure you would have found all our main auditorium sessions very insightful and interesting, and also those of you who missed joining the expo booths, the exhibition center in the morning, 9:30 till 10, we had time for you to review those. Now, as we close the auditorium sessions, you have time back with you again to revisit the expo, go through the exhibition booths. There is very interesting information about diverse set of solutions from Dell Technologies and their partners, which are captive there. And for your review, for your consumption, you have the choice to mail some of those to you for downstream review and reference. So please make best use of that. And one last request is definitely, as you try to log off from this virtual conference today, at the end of the whole session, it will prompt you to fill up an online feedback form. So please do take that extra 90-second trouble to fill it up. It's short and very crisp. We try to keep it simple, but your feedback and precise inputs on what did you like and what would you expect as future topics, etc., from us will help us prepare better and sort of make sure that we bring back to you topics and themes and subject matters that precisely resonate with your interest and your areas of focus. So with that, back to you, Arjun, for the concluding note. And I again thank everybody for your patience, for your attendance today. And till we meet again, be safe, be healthy.
Thank you, Shantanu. Folks, a resounding round of applause for you. You have been a brilliant audience today, and we have really loved having been able to bring this very, very interesting event to you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the folks at Dell Technologies, VMware, and Microsoft for having made that possible. All the folks at Strateging who've been working over the last 20 days odd now, fairly day and night. I'd like to thank them too, which is fundamentally my colleagues. Shantanu has given you all the details. Please do fill up the feedback form. It is very, very important for us to be able to gauge your reactions so that we're able to do much, much better the next time around and then going on. But thank you once again. It's been a delight to have spoken with each of you and have hosted this event. Good day, be safe, be healthy, all the best.